The dashboard clock read 2:47 in the morning when Renata Quinn felt the steering wheel twist beneath her palms like a living thing. Black ice. Exit 12. The sedan pitched sideways, metal shrieking as the guardrail carved a line down the driver's side. And then the world stopped with her door crumpled inward and her left arm pinned between steel and the seat frame. Through the fractured windshield, she could see the overturned tanker 30 yards ahead, its belly marked flammable in letters tall enough to read even through her blurred vision. The smell hit her next. Diesel, sharp and volatile, pooling on the frozen asphalt. She tried to move and her ribs screamed. 400 gallons, she thought, her architect's mind calculating blast radius even as her breath came shallow. 400 gallons and one spark. The radio crackled with distant voices, and then boots crunched on broken safety glass outside her window. A flashlight beam found her face, and a voice she had not heard in 3 years and 8 months said her name like a prayer he thought he had forgotten. The highway curved through pine forest here, the kind of stretch where cell signals died and road crews only salted after dawn. Renata had been driving back from the Harrington presentation, her portfolio case wedged behind the passenger seat, her thermos of cold coffee still upright in the cup holder by some miracle. She designed hospitals, schools, senior centers, buildings meant to hold people safely. Now she was the one who needed holding, and the irony tasted like copper in her mouth. The diesel smell grew thicker. She could hear men shouting coordinates, someone calling for foam, another voice requesting highway patrol. But the face at her window stayed steady, and Thomas Greer's brown eyes met hers through the gap where the window used to be. He wore a navy jacket with captain stitched in yellow block letters across his chest. His jaw was broader than she remembered, his hairline touched with gray at the temples. But his hands were the same as they moved carefully over the doorframe, testing where the metal had folded. He did not ask if she was hurt. He asked if she could hear him, and when she nodded, he said, "Good. Stay exactly where you are." She tried to shift her weight, and the pain lanced from her shoulder down to her wrist. Thomas leaned closer, his breath fogging in the December cold. "Renata, listen, the tanker driver is unconscious. Hazmat is 20 minutes out. I need you to keep still while I assess the door." His voice had that EMT cadence now, the kind that turned panic into procedure. She focused on his words instead of the diesel stench, instead of the way her vision kept narrowing at the edges. He withdrew, and she heard him speaking low to someone outside. Another flashlight swept across her lap, and a younger voice said, "Captain, the frame's compromised. If we pull standard extraction, the whole door structure might collapse inward." Renata closed her eyes. When she opened them, Tomas was back, and he was holding something small in his gloved hand. A silver compass keychain, tarnished and dented, dangling from her rearview mirror. She had forgotten it was there. He met her gaze, and for half a second she saw him remember too, how he had given it to her the day before his deployment, how she had said it would keep her facing true north until he came home. He let it swing back into place without a word. Then he said, "I am going to get you out. Do you trust me?" Renata swallowed. Her throat felt tight. "Yes." Tomas nodded once. "Here is what we are going to do. My team will stabilize the frame with hydraulic struts. I will cut the door pillar and the seat restraint. You will not move unless I tell you to move. You will not try to help. If the pain becomes too much, you say the word lighthouse, and we pause. Understood?" Lighthouse. They had honeymooned in a coastal town where the lighthouse keeper let them climb the spiral stairs at sunset. She nodded. He continued, "No one is taking photos. No one is recording this. When we move you to the ambulance, my partner will document time and injuries, nothing else. We have a county policy, patient privacy, written consent for any media, signed release before names go on record. You will not be on the evening news unless you choose to be. Agreed?" She managed, "Agreed." He reached through the gap and touched the back of her hand, just once, a pressure so brief it might have been accidental. Then he was gone, and she heard the grind of hydraulic pumps starting up. The struts locked into place with metallic thuds and the sedan stopped groaning. Tomas returned with a young woman in a matching jacket. Her badge read Walsh, EMT, and a cutting tool that looked like oversized shears. Walsh positioned a thermal blanket over Renata's lap to catch sparks. "Captain Greer is the best," she said conversationally, as if they were not 30 yards from a fuel spill. "Last month he talked a guy through a self-tourniquet on a construction site. Guy did not even know his own name, but the captain got him to tie it off perfect." Tomas did not look up from his work. "Walsh, check the driver again." Walsh grinned. "Already stable, Captain. Just saying." The cutting tool bit into the door pillar with a sound like a bandsaw through bone. Renata watched Tomas's face, the way his mouth pressed into a thin line, the way he angled the blade to avoid the fuel line running beneath the dashboard. A truck rolled up and a man in a hazmat suit approached, calling, "Captain, we need to foam the tanker now." Tomas did not stop cutting. He said, "Give me 4 minutes." The hazmat officer hesitated, then said, 4 minutes. Clock's running." Tomas cut faster. When the pillar gave way, he set the tool down and said to Renata, "Now comes the hard part." The hard part was her arm. Tomas knelt on the asphalt, his shoulder wedged against the door, and worked his fingers carefully along her wrist, checking for fractures. "Bruised? Maybe a hairline crack? We will know at the hospital. I'm going to ease the seat back. When I do, pull your arm toward you, slow and steady. Do not jerk." Behind him, Walsh held a cervical collar ready. Another EMT, older, with a gray beard and a name tag that read Santos, stood by with a backboard. Renata could see the hazmat crew spreading foam over the tanker, white and chemical smelling. Tomas met her eyes. "On 3. 1, 2. He did not say 3. He just moved, pushing the seat back with a controlled shove, and Renata pulled her arm free. The pain was immediate and bright, but then it faded to a dull throb and she was breathing again. Santos said, "Nice work, Captain." Walsh fitted the collar around Renata's neck. Tomas stood brushing glass off his knees, and for a moment he just looked at her, and she saw something flicker across his face. Relief, maybe, or something older and more complicated. Then he touched the compass keychain one more time, steadying it so it pointed north, and said, "Let us get you out of here." They lifted her onto the backboard with the kind of choreographed precision that came from 1,000 repetitions. Walsh counted. 1, 2, lift. Santos guided her head. Tomas supported her left side, and she felt his hand steady against her shoulder blade, warm even through the blanket. The ambulance was parked 20 yards up the road, its lights turning the pine trees red and blue. As they carried her past the tanker, Renata saw the driver being loaded into a second ambulance, conscious now, his face pale but alert. A woman in a sheriff's uniform stood nearby, writing in a small notebook. She looked up as they passed and said, "Captain Greer, I will need your incident report by 0800. Tomas replied, "You will have it, Deputy Marsh." Deputy Marsh nodded, then glanced at Renata. "Ma'am, I am glad you are all right. That was close." Inside the ambulance, Walsh checked her vitals while Santos radioed ahead to the hospital. Tomas climbed in last, pulling the door shut behind him. He sat across from her, his hands resting on his knees, and Renata saw him touch his own wrist, where he used to wear a braided leather bracelet she had made him. It was gone now. Walsh said, "Blood pressure is 120/75. Pulse is steady." Tomas wrote something on a clipboard, and Renata saw the timestamp, 0310 hours. Then he looked at her and said very quietly, "I requested the late shift this week. I knew you would be on that road tonight." The hospital waiting room at 3:45 in the morning was a study in fluorescent pallor. Renata sat in a plastic chair, her left arm in a sling, her ribs taped beneath a borrowed hospital sweatshirt. The X-rays had come back clean, deep bruising, no breaks. They had given her something for the pain, and the world had softened at its edges. Tomas sat 2 chairs down, his jacket unzipped, his clipboard balanced on his knee. He had finished his incident report 10 minutes ago, but he had not left. Walsh and Santos had clocked out. The night nurse had brought them both terrible coffee and foam cups. Renata held hers in her right hand and watched the steam rise. Finally, she said, "You knew I would be on that road." Tomas set his clipboard aside. "The Harrington Group. You posted about the presentation on your firm's website. I saw it 2 weeks ago. The meeting always runs late. You always take Route 42 home." She should have been angry. Instead, she felt something crack open inside her chest, something that had been sealed for 3 years and 8 months. "You requested a different shift," she said. He nodded. "I did. I thought it would be easier, not seeing you, not knowing if you were safe." He looked down at his hands. "And then dispatch called in the accident at exit 12, and I heard the vehicle description, and I knew." Renata set her coffee down. "You stayed." "I stayed." She reached into the pocket of her coat, the one Walsh had retrieved from the wreckage, and pulled out the compass keychain. The silver was cold in her palm. "You gave me this," she said. "You told me it would bring you home." Tomas met her eyes. "I came home. You were already gone." The silence stretched thin between them. Then Tomas leaned forward, elbows on his knees, and said, "When I got back from deployment, you had moved out. No note. No forwarding address. Your sister told me you needed space, that I would understand eventually. I did not understand. I thought I had lost you to something I could not name." Renata's throat tightened. "You came back different. Quieter. You would not talk about what happened over there. I tried, Tomas. I tried for 6 months and you just..." Her voice broke. "You just disappeared inside yourself." He was quiet for a long moment. Then he reached into his own pocket and pulled out a small, battered envelope, the kind that came with greeting cards. The paper was creased and soft from handling. He held it out to her. "I wrote this 2 years ago. I have been carrying it ever since, in case I ever saw you again." Renata took it. The envelope was addressed to her in his careful block print. The postmark read, April 14th, 2 years prior, from a post office in a town she did not recognize. She looked up. "You never sent it." "I did send it, to your old address. It came back marked return to sender, forwarding expired." He tapped the envelope. "Open it." Inside was a single sheet of lined paper, torn from a notebook. The handwriting was his, tight and precise. The date at the top read April 13th. The letter was short. It said, "Renata, I am sorry. I know I was not the man you married when I came back. I know I hurt you by shutting you out. I have been in therapy for 18 months now. I am learning to talk about it. I am learning to be whole again. If you ever want to sit down and just talk, I will be at the Brookside Diner every Saturday morning at 8. No expectations. Just coffee. Tomas." Renata read it twice. Then she noticed something else in the envelope. A receipt, small and faded, printed on thermal paper. It was from the Brookside Diner, dated April 14th. Time stamped 8:12 in the morning. The items listed were 1 black coffee and 1 order of scrambled eggs. At the bottom, in ballpoint pen, someone had written, "Table by the window, party of 1, alone for 45 minutes, paid cash." The handwriting was unfamiliar, looping and feminine. Renata looked at Tomas. He said, "The waitress. Her name is Margot. She has worked there for 20 years. She remembers me because I came back every Saturday for 6 months." Renata folded the receipt carefully and slid it back into the envelope. Her hands were shaking. "Why did you stop?" Tomas exhaled. "Because I realized you were not coming. And I had to accept that." He stood and walked to the window, where the first gray light of dawn was beginning to wash the parking lot. "I thought about reaching out, calling your firm, showing up at your office, but I did not want to be the guy who could not let go. So I requested the graveyard shift. I worked holidays. I stayed busy. And then 2 weeks ago I saw that website update and I thought..." He stopped. Renata said, "You thought what?" He turned. "I thought maybe I could protect you one more time, even if you never knew." The automatic doors slid open, and a woman in a hospital administrator's badge walked in, carrying a tablet. She glanced at them, then approached. Ms. Quinn? I am Diana Flores, Patient Services. I need to go over your discharge paperwork and our media policy. We had a reporter call about the incident on Route 42. Apparently, someone posted dashcam footage online. It is getting attention. Renata felt her stomach drop. What kind of attention? Diana pulled up a video on her tablet. It showed the overturned tanker, the diesel spill, and a distant figure, Tomas, cutting through the door of a crumpled sedan. The timestamp in the corner read 2:53 in the morning. The caption beneath the video read, "Hero EMS captain risks life to save trapped driver." The clip had 40,000 views. Tomas closed his eyes. Diana said gently, "We have a policy. No names released without written consent. No interviews without your approval. But I need to inform you. The County Public Information Office will be calling by 9 this morning. They want a statement." Renata looked at Tomas. He said, "I did not do this for a headline." She believed him, but the word lighthouse hovered on her tongue anyway, and she almost said it, almost asked him to pause, to stop, to let her breathe. Instead, she said, "I need to see the full video." Diana handed over the tablet. The video was 57 seconds long. It showed Tomas working with controlled intensity, his team moving around him like a choreographed unit. It showed the moment he touched the compass keychain. It showed him speaking close to the window, his lips moving in words the camera could not capture. And it showed at the very end, the moment the backboard lifted clear and the hazmat crew moved in to foam the tanker. The comments beneath the video were effusive. Someone had already identified Tomas by his name patch. Someone else had posted a link to the county EMS roster. A third commenter had written, "Does anyone know who the woman is?" The timestamp on that comment was 16 minutes ago. Renata handed the tablet back. "I do not want my name out there." Diana nodded. "Understood. I will notify the Public Information Office. But Ms. Quinn, I need to be clear. If the dashcam owner releases more footage, or if someone identifies you independently, we cannot control that." Renata stood. The room tilted slightly, and Tomas moved as if to steady her, then stopped himself. She said, "I need to go home." Diana said, "Of course. Just sign here." She produced a form. Renata signed without reading it. Tomas walked her to the automatic doors. Outside, the sky was pale pink and the air smelled like cold asphalt and distant pine. Her car was still impounded at exit 12. She had no ride. Tomas said, "I can call you a cab." She looked at him. "Or you could drive me." He hesitated. Then he pulled his keys from his pocket. "My shift ended an hour ago. My truck is in the staff lot." They walked in silence across the parking lot. His truck was an old Ford, dark green with a dent in the tailgate. He opened the passenger door for her and she climbed in carefully, mindful of her ribs. The interior smelled like coffee and canvas. On the dashboard, she saw a small photo tucked into the sun visor, the two of them on their wedding day standing on the steps of the courthouse, her in a cream dress, him in his dress uniform. She had not known he kept it. Tomas got in and started the engine. He did not say anything, he just drove. 20 minutes later, he pulled up in front of her apartment building. Renata unbuckled her seatbelt and asked herself the question that had been burning in her chest since the waiting room. Was walking away 3 years ago the right choice, or the biggest mistake of my life? She did not get out of the truck. Instead, she said, "The letter, the receipt. I need to know it is real." Tomas turned off the engine. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I need more than a piece of paper and your word. I need to know you really went to that diner. I need to know Margot is real. I need to know you did not just write that letter last week." Her voice was steady, but her hands were not. Tomas reached into the glove compartment and pulled out a small, worn notebook, the kind with a black cover and an elastic band. He opened it to a page marked with a folded napkin. The page was dated April 14th, 2 years ago. The handwriting was the same looping script from the receipt. It read, "Table 6, regular. Black coffee, Scrambled eggs. Stayed 45 minutes. Paid $8. Left 10. Asked if anyone named Renata had come in. Said she had not. Will update if she does. Below that, in Tomas's handwriting, was a note. Week 1. No show. And then, week after week, the same pattern. Week 2. No show. Week 3. No show. The entries ran for 6 months. The last one read, Week 26. Last visit. Margot gave me her notebook page as a keepsake. Said she hoped I would find peace. Renata stared at the page. You kept this. I kept everything. He turned to the back of the notebook, where a small photograph was tucked. A candid shot of him sitting at a diner booth, the window behind him showing a spring morning. He was looking down at a cup of coffee, and the compass keychain was visible on the table beside him. The photo was printed on glossy paper, and in the corner in small type it read, Brookside Diner, April 21st. Margot R., proprietor. Renata felt her eyes sting. Why? Tomas closed the notebook. Because I needed proof, too. Proof that I tried. Proof that I did not just give up. He looked at her. And because I thought maybe someday you would ask. She reached for her phone. Her fingers were clumsy on the screen, but she managed to pull up a search for Brookside Diner. The website came up immediately, a small family-owned place on the east side of the county. The About page featured a photo of the staff. There, in the center, was a woman in her 60s with graying curls and a warm smile. The caption read, Margot Reyes, owner and head waitress since 2005. Renata showed him the screen. I want to go there, now. Tomas started the engine. The Brookside Diner opened at 6 in the morning. By the time they arrived, the sun was fully up, and the parking lot held a handful of trucks and sedans. Inside, the smell of bacon and fresh coffee was overwhelming. A woman at the counter looked up as they entered. It was Margot, older than her photo, but unmistakable. Her eyes widened. Tomas. He nodded. Margot. She came around the counter, wiping her hands on her apron. I did not think I would see you again. Then her gaze shifted to Renata, and her expression changed. You are her, Renata swallowed. I am Renata. Margot studied her for a long moment. Then she said, Sit, both of you. They sat at the booth by the window, table 6. Margot poured them coffee without asking and slid into the seat across from them. He came here every Saturday for 6 months, she said. Rain, snow, did not matter. He always ordered the same thing. He always asked if you had come in, and every week I told him no. She looked at Renata. I did not know if you were a ghost or a real person, but I knew he was carrying something heavy. Renata's voice was barely a whisper. I did not get the letter. Margot nodded. He told me. I believed him. She pulled a small laminated card from her apron pocket and set it on the table. It was a photocopy of the receipt, with a handwritten note beneath. This man waited for 6 months. If the woman named Renata ever comes looking, show her this. Dated April 20th, 2 years ago. Signed by Margot Reyes, notarized at the county clerk's office, stamped with an official seal. Renata picked it up. The seal was real, the kind pressed into paper with a metal embosser. The notary's signature was legible. Paul Chen, county clerk, District 4. Margot said, I had it notarized because I wanted proof. Not for him, for you, in case you ever came. Tomas was silent. Renata looked at him, then at Margot, then at the card in her hands. Why would you do this for a stranger? Margot smiled. Because I have been married for 43 years and I know what it looks like when someone is fighting to keep a door open. He was fighting. I wanted to make sure you knew. The door to the diner opened, and a man in a county uniform walked in. Deputy Marsh, the same officer from the highway. She saw them and paused, then approached. Captain Greer, Ms. Quinn, I am glad to see you both. She pulled a folded document from her jacket. I finished the incident report. The dash cam footage was posted by a civilian. The Public Information Office has issued a statement. No names, no interviews without consent, but I wanted you to have a copy of the official record. She handed the document to Renata. It was stamped with the county seal, signed by Deputy Marsh, and countersigned by the EMS district supervisor. The timestamp matched the video. The report noted Tomas's actions, the hazmat response, and the successful extrication. At the bottom, in a separate section, it read, Captain Greer was off rotation for this shift. He volunteered to respond when the call came in. No disciplinary action warranted. Exemplary conduct under high-risk conditions. Deputy Marsh said, the county wants to give him a commendation, but he refused. Said he was just doing his job. Tomas looked out the window. I was. Renata set the report down beside the notarized card and the compass keychain, now lying in the center of the table like an altar. She said, I left because I thought you did not want me anymore. I thought I was losing you to something I could not fight. I was wrong. Tomas turned to face her. You were not wrong, I did shut you out. But I have been trying to find my way back. She reached across the table and took his hand. Then let me help. 6 months later, Renata stood in the lobby of her firm's new community center, a building she had designed with wide windows and clean lines and a small plaque near the entrance that read, Dedicated to Second Chances. Tomas was beside her, his hand warm in hers. The ribbon-cutting ceremony had finished an hour ago. Now the space was filled with neighbors, city council members, and a quiet hum of conversation. Margot was there too, carrying a tray of pastries from the diner. She set it down on a table and winked at Renata. I told you he was worth the wait. Deputy Marsh stopped by to shake Tomas's hand. Good to see you out of uniform, Captain. He smiled. Good to be here. On the wall near the main staircase, Renata had installed a small display, a framed photograph of the compass keychain, beside a printed excerpt from the county incident report. Beneath it, a simple caption, Remember True North. A young woman with a camera approached. Ms. Quinn, can I ask what this display means to you? Renata glanced at Tomas. He nodded. She said, It means that proof matters. It means that showing up matters. It means that even when someone walks away, you can choose to leave the door open. And sometimes, they find their way back. The reporter wrote it down. And the compass? Tomas answered. It was a gift, a reminder that no matter how lost you get, you can always find your way home. Later, after the crowd thinned, they walked out into the evening air. The sky was clear, and the first stars were beginning to show. Tomas pulled the compass from his pocket. She had given it back to him at the diner, and he had carried it ever since, and held it up to catch the light. True North, he said. She leaned into him. True North. They stood there for a long moment, and Renata thought about all the ways a person could lose themselves, and all the ways they could be found again. She thought about letters that never arrived, and diners that became sanctuaries, and the small, quiet work of keeping a promise, even when no one was watching. And she thought about the question she had asked herself in his truck 6 months ago. Was walking away the right choice or the biggest mistake of my life? Now she knew the answer. It was both. Because sometimes, you have to lose something to understand what it is worth. And sometimes the greatest act of courage is not walking away, it is walking back. If this gave you courage, subscribe and tell us, what would you have done?